So the film begins with Neil, a renowned writer. He was being presented with awards and everyone was praising him profusely. But suddenly, the scene cuts to Neil waking up. It was just a dream. In reality, he was just an ordinary schoolteacher. Nothing was set in his life. His students didn't take him seriously, the principal constantly scolded him, and he couldn't even talk to the girl he liked. The scene cuts to an alien ship. Inside this alien ship were not just one, but many different aliens from different planets. This was the Alien Council, and the Alien Council had just learned about Earth. They conduct research on Earth and discover that humans live there. They now wanted to test the behavior and nature of humans. Are they harmful to the entire galaxy? Therefore, they decide to randomly select a person from across the universe and conduct tests on them. They will grant them numerous powers, allowing them to do whatever they wish. This way, they will determine whether humans are good or not. And if humans are not good, they will wipe Earth from the galaxy, as both Earth and humans could pose a threat to the entire galaxy. And if they realize that humans can be good, they will also include them in their alien council. They use one of their machines to select a person, and that person is none other than Neely, who was riding a bicycle at the time. He didn't even own a good car. Suddenly, his bicycle falls off and he has a serious accident. At that moment, we see a bright blue light collide with his hand. This was actually the powers the aliens were bestowing upon him. Neely, unaware that he has acquired powers, returns to his college as a normal person. Immediately, he encounters the principal, who scolds him severely. He goes to the classroom and sees all the kids making noise and commotion. He knows he won't settle for them, so he stands outside and starts reading the newspaper to pass the time. Break time eventually arrives, and while eating lunch, Neil tells his classmate, "The kids in my class are so weird. I can't stand it if my whole class burns down." He says, "Let's just show them." Meanwhile, the entire classroom catches fire. There's chaos, and no one understands how the fire started. Neil is also deeply confused. Confused, he returns home to find his dog has made a mess. He sits down on the couch, exhausted, and wishes the smell would just go down the toilet. He says that's exactly what happened. Not only did the smell go down the toilet, but it also flushed out automatically. Neil can't believe his eyes. He feels he's going crazy and tries to calm himself down. But then his bottle falls into the sink and he wishes all the wasted drinks would go back into the bottle. His wish comes true. The drink vomits back into the bottle. Unsure of his powers, Neil waves his hand and says, "I wish this bottle could be replaced with a new one." At this, the bottle jumps out of the house on its own. Neil chases it. The bottle goes to a store, breaks the door, and goes inside. Before a new bottle can come out, a police officer spots it and they assume Neil broke the glass. The police officers chase after him and catch him. However, Neil's dog bites the police officer to save him, and they start running again. The police chase after him again, and while running, Neil even falls into the mud. Now he knows the police will catch him. Then he waves his hand and says, "I should get home immediately." He does, and the police officers standing behind him are left wondering where the man has disappeared. He arrives home, and the first thing he does is wash his face, because he feels it was his mouth that was causing all this. He also realized that the fire that had broken out in his class earlier in the day was also caused by it. In his panic, he wants to fix everything, but he mispronounces the sentence. Instead of saying, "May everything be all right," he says, "May all the dead people come back to life." All the dead people start rising up, even coming out of their graves. But these people who had come back to life were no longer human, but had become zombies. The zombies began to approach Neil's house. Seeing this, Neil became extremely alarmed and waved his hand again, wishing for everything to be all right. After everything was all right, Neil waved his hand again and wished that the same accident that happened in his class that morning wouldn't happen again. With this, Neil flashed back to the time when he had said that sentence, and his class was perfectly fine. Arriving in the past, he immediately got up and went to his class, only to find that the children were still making noise. He waved his hand and said, "I wish these children would become decent and gain all the knowledge." The next moment, all the children became very polite
and immersed in their studies. There was so much discipline in the class that it was confusing to even look at it. Now he had to pass through the corridor. He saw that the principal, who always made fun of him, was there. Now he uses his powers on the principal, saying, "This guy always praises me," and that's exactly what happens. The principal now catches him off guard and praises him. He thanks him, saying, "It's because of you that the kids here like him so much. Our school is running well," and so on. Neil is so touched that at first he restrains his emotions, but when he goes outside, he celebrates like a child. Then Neil returns to the staff room, where he sees his friend PD intently gazing at the teacher. He secretly had a crush on her, but had never been able to tell her, so Neil makes a wish for her, saying, "May this girl fall in love with his friend." Afterward, when Neil returns home, he feels he should change himself. After all, with all the powers he possesses, his first wish is to become the greatest person in the world. So he becomes a scientist. But that's not good. He returns to normal and wishes for a great body. Without even working out, his body becomes incredibly muscular. In other words, he becomes incredibly fit. Neil then wishes for his neighbor, whom he admires, to see him. At that very moment, the entire floor of his apartment vanishes, revealing his friend from below. Morning arrives, and when Neil returns to his office, he realizes that given the immense responsibility he has, he should share it with someone. He tries to explain it to his friend, but his friend is completely incredulous. How could someone have such power to say anything and have it happen? When his friend refuses to believe him, Neil makes a skeleton dance, brings flowers all over the room, and then gets the principal to praise them both. He even takes his friend to a horse race, and by waving his hand makes a specific horse win. After that, his friend was bound to believe he possessed special powers. They were more surprised than delighted at how this was happening. Finally, Neil returns home and can't sleep the entire night. He's been contemplating what he should do, how he should use this power. He thinks, why not use his powers to bring the girl he likes into his life? He waves his hand and says, "I wish she would fall in love with me." But unfortunately, his powers were disabled at that time because of a glitch in the alien ship. Neil thought his wish would come true, but it didn't. Neil falls asleep, and when he wakes up in the morning, he finds his neighbor kissing him as soon as he arrives. We're shown a brief flashback. At this time, the girl was jogging with her friend. She discussed with her friend that she didn't like her boyfriend because he was a colonel and always imposed so many restrictions on her. She explained that she liked her neighbor, Neil. Her friend told her, so go and propose to him. She had come here because of her friend's advice, not because of Neil's wish. Whatever it was, Neil felt that his wish had been fulfilled. Initially, Neil was very happy, but after a while, he realized that this love wasn't his true love. He himself didn't know the truth. The next day, when he regains his powers, he makes another wish after a long time, that his dog regain the power of speech. His dog even starts talking like a human. Even at this point, he hadn't realized it, that for once his powers had been lost. While Neil was talking to his dog, Catherine arrived with flowers for him. But hearing the boy's voice, she assumed Neil was with boys and wasn't interested in girls. She angrily left, and Neil ran after her to try to convince her. Before he could convince his friend's friend arrived, stopped him, and said, "Please, make things normal again. I don't like that teacher anymore. She's so unkind. She's annoying me." Neil was extremely aggressive and angry. He didn't want to listen to her, so he turned her into a sausage. Then he went after his friend, trying to convince her that it was his dog talking, but no one believed his stupid words. Now, after leaving the bakery, he first brought his friend back to normal and then listened to her. By this time, the aliens above were taking notes on Neil. They didn't like something Neil did and believed that humans were selfish and Earth should be destroyed. We see Neil's friend, Catherine, come home, and Neil is now following her. Catherine sees her fiancé at home and is furious. She too becomes frightened, locks her apartment, and comes to Neil's house to disappear. She was angry with Neil at this point, but she had nowhere else to turn for cover.
A short while later, we see the Colonel break into Neil's house and point a gun at him. Under normal circumstances, Neil would have been terrified, but now he had powers. Using his powers, he first makes Neil's gun disappear, then beats him severely, and then uses his own powers to repair it. Seeing all this, Catherine is astonished and convinced that everything Neil had been telling her at the bakery was true. He possessed powers that allowed him to summon his dog. Catherine, too, was astonished and now believed Neil's words. He possessed certain powers, which enabled him to transform his dog into a human and speak like a human. Despite this, Catherine becomes angry with Neil and leaves. Meanwhile, we see the Colonel, who, while pursuing Catherine, hits Neil on the head with a vase, knocking him unconscious. When Neil regains consciousness, he finds himself tied to a chair, his hands tied to a table, and the Colonel has taken control, having realized that Neil can do anything with a wave of his hand and wants to use his powers for his own benefit.
He had Neil's dog captive at the time, which is why Neil was forced to comply. He had Neil perform some crazy tasks. He enlarged the ears of the Americans, gave them duck-like feet, turned the police uniforms pink, and performed some strange acts that completely transformed the city. Seeing all these changes, Catherine understood why this was happening. She realized that the Colonel was definitely orchestrating this through Neil. She went to Neil's house to stop it all, only to find that Neil was missing. While inquiring about Neil, she went to Neil's friend's house, where she found Neil hiding in a closet, hiding from his colleague. He also told Catherine that everything Neil was saying was true. He had powers, and only Neil could fix what had happened. However, Catherine knew Neil was in a dire situation at the moment. Therefore, the two decided to rescue Neil. To save Neil, they reached the Colonel's house and saw that Neil's friend's clique was following him. That too, to so many people because she was worshipping him. Neil's friend was deeply troubled. They somehow managed to reach there and save Neil's life. Neil's first wish, waving his hand, is that everything the Colonel told him would return to normal. After restoring everything, he approaches Catherine. He apologizes to her and tells her that he wants to spend his life with her. But Catherine rejects his proposal, saying, "I can't love a man who can't do anything on his own, but uses his powers." Neil is deeply hurt by this and confesses that he won't use his powers for himself, but for the betterment of the world. That's why he makes his first wish, that everyone in the world doesn't starve, that everyone has their own home and a good life. As soon as he makes his wish, breaking news arrives that there's been an overabundance of food, causing people to become overweight and sick. Because everyone has their own home, there's been very little land left for food cultivation, and the world's environment has been reset. Global warming has ended, and the world's temperature has plummeted, causing even more distress. Neil realizes that his wish isn't a good one, so he restores the world to normal. Now, he's at a loss for what to do. Every time he tries to fix something, the opposite happens. He decides to take his own life. He's a loser. Even with his powers, he can't do anything good. He goes to a bridge to commit suicide, and before leaving, he tells his dog, "I want to give you all my powers." Neil's dog struggles to stop him from doing so. By this time, Neil had already given all his powers to his dog. Using his powers, the dog first prevents him from dying and then makes a second wish, destroy the source of these powers, and we see exactly that. The aliens' powers overwhelm them. A massive explosion erupts atop the alien council ship, wiping out the entire alien council and declaring them all aliens. Everything returns to normal. Even in Neil's life, Neil learned from this incident that he needed to work hard to set things right. He needed a little courage. That's why he began working hard on his own in his job and other endeavors. Today, he even musters the courage to propose to Catherine, and Catherine agrees. Neil was overjoyed. We see his dog watching this from a distance. At this point, the dog uses his powers to bring him along, revealing that the dog still possesses the powers that have been making Neil's life better. The movie ends with this dog couple.